What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are checking out the Crankenstein. Let's do it! Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle. What I do is I take awesome high gain amplifiers, overdrives, guitars, cabinets, speakers, pickups. I record them with a simple SM57 setup and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes with perpetually chapped lips, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, today we have a legendary amp here in the high gain world. Not necessarily legendary for all the right reasons, but it is legendary nonetheless. Today we are checking out the Crankenstein. This is the first version, not the plus version, so this is the first one that came out. They revamped it, gave it a different power section, and kind of updated it to fix a lot of the things that people did not like about the original Crankenstein. But this is the one we have. So we're gonna do a demo on this one. This amp pretty much has a love-hate relationship as far as the high gain guitar community goes. People either seem to really like them or really hate them. I personally think that they sound just fine. They do take some tweaking in order to get them to sound good though. It is very, very easy to make them sound bad. So I definitely understand why some people don't necessarily love these amps to death. But if you spend enough time on the controls and really kind of learn how everything interacts, I think it's easy to get a pretty good tone on this as long as you remember how the presence and the sweet pots work on this thing, because they can drastically change your tone night and day with just a little bump of the knob. Another thing to keep in mind is I demo everything on vintage 30 speakers. Right now we have an angle slant cab with V30s in it. This amp, as far as I know, was voiced to go with Eminence speakers because the crank cabs all came with Eminence speakers. So that could be a big reason why we're getting some spiky high end and some top end fizz, because I do have some Eminence speakers. I don't have any crank cabs, but a lot of the Eminence speakers that I do have, a lot of that top end presence and sizzle seems to be kind of rolled off in comparison with the Celestians. So keep in mind, we are not demoing this amp on the speakers that it was probably voiced for. So that could have a pretty big effect on the results that we get. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put everything at noon, including the presence. We won't keep it like that for very long though, because you'll see very quickly you're not gonna wanna do that. I'm gonna take the gain down to 9 o'clock. For the intro riff, I had a Boss SD1 Overdrive on because I really felt that this SD1 complemented the Krank very, very nicely. It kind of fixed some of the low end frequencies that were going on and added a little bit more upper mid bite that the amp was lacking. We have no boosts on, so let's go ahead and see how this thing sounds unboosted with all of the EQ settings at noon and with our gain at 9 o'clock. All right, so I literally can't even do that. That's so harsh, it's so bright. We're gonna take the presence literally all the way down, because you have to run it almost all the way off or it's gonna sound very, very harsh, at least through V30s. Just like that, it's a little muffled. Let's get a little presence. All right, so we already have, a decent bass tone going on there. We just really have to adjust that presence to see what kind of difference we get as far as the top end goes, because it comes on very, very fast. So you're gonna wanna keep that low unless you want to cut everybody in the audience's heads off with your treble. It's not fun. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys the sweep, because the sweep has a pretty large, it's got a lot of variance in this pot. When you go from 0 to 10, I mean, it literally is like drastically different sounding, drastically different EQ curve. So let's go ahead and go from 0 to 10. right, so as you can tell, massive difference from one side to the other. When it's turned lower, it's more low mid and low heavy, and then the more that you push it over to the other side, it starts to brighten the amp up. It starts to add some mid-range, but it really kind of starts to take away some of the low end. So it's kind of like a balancing act with the sweet pot. But if you have it lower like this, you can then kind of actually use the presence in a usable way as opposed to having it, you know, all the way off. Let's go ahead and turn some gain up. But even like that, it sounds really hollow. Let's bump the sweep up a little bit. And just like that, that presence is way too much. All right, so we got a scoopy tone going on there. We got a nice bit of bass. I'm actually gonna back that down a little bit. I'm gonna back the treble down and I'm gonna bump the mids. I don't know, it's still kind of clanky on the top end, but it's fat. It's like, it doesn't have presence anywhere that I want it to have presence. Like all the wrong frequencies are being pushed forward. We definitely are pushing a lot of low end as it is right now. Let's go ahead and back the bass down. I'm gonna back the treble down or the presence down just a bit. All right, so as it stands right there, you know, that's a little bit too low, mid, heavy, and woofy for my taste. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna pull the presence down a bit. And now we have the sweep closer to noon. So we gotta add some low end back in because that removes some of our low end the further we go over in that direction. All right, so that's okay. That presence it really just accentuates the very high end, and then the treble accentuates like almost somewhere in the upper mids. It's like not as high based as a treble control usually is, and it's hard for me to at least find a balance of where I really like it to where the top end sounds present without being harsh, and that's what I struggle with this amp. So yeah, definitely has that scoopy thing going on, even with the mid pushed up with the sweep this low. Let's go ahead and push the sweep up just above 1 o'clock. And now we have to add some bass because we have none. All right, I'm gonna pull that treble back. That dramatically changes the tone night and day. So pulling the treble back also seems to really kind of mute the mid-range too. It like scoops it out a little bit. So having the treble and the mid-range higher opens the mids up. All right, so I feel like we're a little dry. Let's add some more gain from the amp. Okay, it's a little bit, it's adding the gain kind of thickens it up, makes it a little bit more guttural. Very guttural, thick, low, mid thing going on. It's pretty cool. Again, it's not my tone. Let's go ahead and kick on a boost though and see if we can kind of tighten things up a little bit. I'm gonna roll the gain back just a tap. Turning that boost on immediately turned this amp into something that I liked much better than what we were just getting. So that made a huge difference for me. All right, so it is still a little bright on the top end for my taste. I'm gonna roll that presence back just a tad. There's just something weird in that in the treble region that thins all the strings out, and I don't like the way that it sounds. The palm mutes are nice and punchy though, I'll give it that. It's got a nice tight low mid punch. Depending on how you have that sweet set, how you have the mid-range set, it can be very guttural. If we turn the sweep up even higher, it's gonna be very kind of scratchy, awkward mid-range type thing, and it's gonna not have a lot of low end. That's what the low end turn all the way up. All right, so I like it, but again, even on, the presence is just so much. There's so much weird high frequency. It's picking up every little string slide. I don't know if you guys have ever played an amp that picks up a lot of high frequencies, but it tends to pick up a lot of string noise and slide noise and amplify that and push that forward. That's definitely what's going on here, and it's kind of driving me nuts. So let's see if we can balance that out a little bit. All right, I have a tone that I like for sure on this. The SD1 is putting some mids in where they kind of need to be on the amp. Let's play a little riff real quick, and then we'll maybe drop down, or we'll try a different boost, and then we'll drop down. One thing I will give this amp for sure is it's got some excellent string clarity and separation. Those chords, you could hear every single string, and that's probably part of that high-end frequency poking through a little bit, but it definitely has excellent string separation and clarity for sure. The Hypernova pickups in my Balaguer Typhon definitely don't hurt. These are kind of a modern ceramic type pickup, and they are super clear, so it's a nice combination. Let's go ahead and try a different boost. Let's kick on the let's try the Mud Killer. Let's try the Mud Killer. This might actually give us some more mid-range and keep that high end from getting out of control. All right, not bad there. One more, we'll try the duality because you guys know I love my Deadwall duality. But instead of trying the Tube Screamer side, let's see how it does with the TC integrated preamp side. That was pretty badass, honestly. I liked that. All right, guys, same settings. We are now in D standard. All right, so I'm gonna actually kick that boost off. So that's where we're at as far as our drop D tone. Let's put a little bit more treble on that and a little bit more gain. That sounds pretty nasty in a good way, I think. Not bad, okay? Let's go ahead, kick that SD1 on again. Okay, so I mean, yeah, just the treble and the sweep and presence pots all shape the tone dramatically. The treble definitely acts as kind of like an overall filter to the EQ. It really changes the EQ drastically, just moving it a little bit. And when you dial it back, that seems to make the mids, either depending on where the sweep is, it just, I don't know, it just has a lot of effect on the tone. So you're gonna really want to fine tune those three pot controls because they're going to be the biggest factors in deciding how the tone sounds that comes out of this amp. So one more riff and drop C, we'll call it a day. Okay guys, that's gonna do it for me today on the Crankenstein. What did you think? Let me know down in the comments. Do you own this amp? Have you played this amp? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What did you think about the sounds that I got out of it today? Let me know down in the comments, and of course I'll come down there to chat about it with you guys. Me personally, it's a little too low mid-bass and it's a little too hard to dial in the treble and the presence the way that I want them. You guys know I really like my mids. I like my 5150 Cocteau mid. I like that 5150 sizzle that the presence brings and everything. And you can't really get it from this amp. Definitely the mids are in a completely different place. One thing I will say is the low end is very tight and punchy, and I really do like that about this amp. It's got a very percussive feel to the palm mutes. I mean, they just jump out of the cab like boom, they hit you in the chest. I would say I could probably like pair this amp up with something like a 5150 or maybe like my Marshall DSL or something that's got the mids where I want it. It's got that overall upper mid and high cut that I like, and use this as kind of like a low end booster and a guttural like low mid addition to those tones. But standing by itself, it's just not my favorite. I think the presence pod is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why they designed it like that, but I mean, man, I'm sitting beside the cab and that thing was slicing my ears off if I bumped it up just a little too high. The sweep as well, I mean, it's very delicate, like the way, you know, you move that just a little bit and your tone changes dramatically, and same with the treble, the way that all of those interact. You're gonna really have to spend some time with this amp in order to get the tones that you like out of it. Towards the end, I definitely had it sounding really good. Again, it wouldn't be my main amp, but I did enjoy it. So again, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what you heard that I didn't hear here in the room. Wow, that was a really confusing sentence to try and put together. If you like the channel, if you want to support what I do, down in the description of this video are all my support links, including my Sweetwater affiliate link, my Patreon, and consider becoming a member of the Belligerent Amateur community by joining my Discord server, my Facebook group, all down below, where everybody just talks about gear all day long, and it's a lot of fun. So with all that being said, Kyle here again. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you next time.